right. Well, welcome, Mr. Faison. You mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Faison, State Representative of the 11th House District. That's Cochrane in Jefferson County.
Okay, wonderful. And I met you in 2017. You were dealing with a Veterans for Cannabis pizza party, and I met you then, and I've seen you work a lot since then. I really enjoyed having you as a state representative. How did you get involved with medical cannabis?
You know, I got involved because one of my constituents called me and said that her little girl needed cannabis. And I was like, okay. So I went and met this little Josie. She's been up here. At the time, she was, only 6 months old. I'm so sorry. And the medicine that she had been given was going to shut her little body down. And I went and met her. She was having 200 seizures a day, even on the medicine that she was on. And her mom, Stacy, had asked me to look into what's going on with cannabis, and said that she was going to go to Colorado and see if there was any hope with cannabis for her daughter. And in fact, there was. And it really started to spark my interest at what's going on here. So the more and more I studied, the more I realized, we've been lied to by a lot of people when it comes to this plant. And that God put that plant on here for a very good reason. That he put this plant here for a very good reason. And I felt like it was incumbent on me to push for it so people would be able to use it.
Well, so for the last few years, we've seen it shot down. How do people need to continue to talk to you and other politicians about the way that this is seen within the state?
Unfortunately, we in Tennessee, some of our legislators are just caught up of what the negative impact that they think could happen. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of a lot of stories. They always say, well, look what's happened in Colorado. Look what's happened in Colorado. And I'm like, well, there's 33 other states who are doing this, but I guess you can look at just Colorado if you want to. And Colorado they weren't the first. California was the first, then Alaska. Colorado came after that, but people flooded out. Homeless people, bums, people flooded out to Colorado. And there was some negative stories that took place by just completely opening the floodgates for the marijuana plant just to be used recreational and everything in that state. There were some negative impacts from it. And a lot of legislators are just caught up on the fact that there was all this negative stuff. A lot of the stories you read might be slanted, but no matter how you look at it, there's some negative stuff that has come from Colorado. You don't really hear any negative stuff from the other states, but they, for whatever you pick that in, that's just the first thing you think of. Mm-hmm. So dealing with that fact, and then dealing with the fact that there's no FDA-approved studies other than for Epidiolex. And Epidiolex, cost a fortune to use, and which is amazing to me. So, the legislators want to deal in facts, and they would say that this is dealing in emotions. Unfortunately, we deal in emotions too. We live in that. And so what people need to do is continue just to kindly reach out to their representatives. One of the things that just shuts down an elected official is when somebody threatens you or says, I'm coming after you if you don't vote the way I want. That's counterproductive.
Right.
What I see is very productive is make an appointment, just like you did. Come and say, this is what happened with me. You might call it anecdotal, but Mr. Representative, Mr. Senator, this is what happened with me. This is how it's impacted my life. Just tell them this is what FDA-approved drugs was doing. This is what cannabis is doing. Nobody up here is going to turn you in or turn you into the law or get you in trouble. There's nobody going to do that. They don't want that negative press. Can you imagine the horrible press of that? Say, this is how this plant's helping me. And you'd be surprised how much different that is than coming up here holding a sign or leaving a fake joint on somebody's desk. You hear all these. One of my buddies who's big time against this, they left him a couple rolled hemp cigarettes. That did nothing for him. Matter of fact, it made him even more. I'm not even gonna listen to you if that's all you can do.
Yeah.
But you come up here, make an appointment. You're my representative. I want to meet with you and tell you my personal story. If enough people come up here and make appointments and say this is my personal story, it's going to have an impact.
Because I think the big thing, or for me personally, for 2020 is seeing it to where patients aren't exposed to civil assets forfeiture and felony charges. I think that's like the main thing. Just get them some kind of umbrella to where they can get some kind of medical help. Is that
So let's talk about. You're talking now more of the recreational side of it. Interesting thing. We every time government tries to stop a person from harming themselves, if you will, we end up messing up. Where government has a true role is if your abuse of a substance makes it to where you're hurting somebody else. That's where government has a role. And that's what we need to start preaching. If you're going to sit at your house with the doors closed, you're not harming anybody. You know, we have people who've violated probation. They're back in jail. They didn't actually do anything. They've got out of jail on probation. They violated probation. And the way they violated is they smoked a joint.
yeah?
And now they're back in jail. They didn't hurt anybody. They didn't do anything really bad to society. We need to rethink just across the board how we look at the drug problem. And the reason I would say that is we spend billions of dollars every year, billions of taxpayer money fighting drugs. And I just want to look and say, what's it doing for us?
Right.
Where's the big bang for our buck? The truth is illegal drug use is up. All the laws that we pass aren't doing it. If you're willing to do meth, if you're willing to do crack, man, you're hurt. You need help. I don't know that just, well, the truth is when we put a drug user in jail for using drugs, I mean, the rate of recidivism is astronomical. Obviously, we know it's not working.
Yeah.
What have we got for it? These people are broken. They need some mental help. They need guidance. So I feel like we're just failing altogether on the war on drugs. It's a failed war. We're not getting anything for it. As a matter of fact, I think it's probably worse.
Is that something that goes along with your peers? Did they kind of see it that way?
You know, I don't know. And interesting thing, a couple years ago, we passed some really strict laws on opioids. And so for you to get a hydrocodone now or Loratab, you can only get a 5-day supply.
Yeah.
And it was kicking and squealing, and people were mad, and it was a major deal. Governor Haslam pushed it through. And go ask your cop. Go to any of our 95 counties and ask them what's the drug right now that they're seeing. You know what the drug they're seeing? Heroin. Heroin is up huge all across the state of Tennessee. Now, is that anecdotal? Can you say, well, that didn't happen because we cracked down on prescription opioids? Here's the deal. It is happening. And heroin is worse now than it was 2 years ago when you could get a prescription opioid. So my point is the more we try to hem in and pass all these laws and really just cuff them and stuff them, I don't know that we're getting anything for it. And anybody who's viewing this, I would ask you, what do you think we're getting for it? What have we accomplished? So, but you've got two issues here. We've got, first of all, there's a validity to the cannabis plant. We know there's a validity to it. Israel has been proving it for years. America has paid them. The federal government has a patent on the medical use of the marijuana plant. Why does the federal government have a patent on the medical use of the marijuana plant if it has no medical uses? Right? I mean, look it up. It's there. So there's use to it. Let's make it at least safe enough for the sick Tennesseans that they can safely use the cannabis plant in whatever form they deem best. That's part of it. The second part is, let's really have a sit-down conversation in America and think about how we're handling drugs. We're just failing it altogether. And unfortunately, those two get mixed up whenever you bring up medical marijuana. And it's hard to keep those separate. It's two truly separate things. I even brought it up myself. But the legislators look at it all as one because they think if you bring medical, then the next thing on the doorstep is recreational. So that's why I end up saying, well, let's look at the recreational use of drugs. What has this war got us? As a matter of fact, it's just worse. We're not getting anywhere from it.
Right.
And I feel like we keep the we keep crime and the black market sustained and the cartel sustained by our war. And the cartel is what's cutting people in half and destroying their families. And you know why so many people are wanting to come here from the south of the border, from out of Mexico and all those Central American countries?
Why is it?
They're coming here because of the drug lords. They're scared to death. They're getting killed. They don't want to live in this anymore. The cartels south of the border are destroying all those countries. Well, why do we have cartels? We have cartels because of a drug war. They have to fight. So we just got this vicious cycle that I would hope to see that we could get past one day and sit down and actually have a real conversation of what will work, because what we're doing is not working. And one of our philosophers, I'm a little bit tired, but he said insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, but then expecting you're going to get a different result.
Right.
We come up here every year. All these legislators come up every year and they say, man, we really passed a new law on drugs. We're really cracking down on them. This is my 9th year. I hadn't seen drugs get one bit better in Tennessee by every law we've passed yet.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's not working, let's rethink it.
Yeah.
What can we do to make this work? Because we're failing right now. We're spending billions of dollars going after drugs and incarceration, and what have we got?
How do you think the farm bill is going to change that? Because this year we're seeing thousands and thousands of plants growing across the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, the National Farm Bill that President Trump signed does make it legal for you to grow hemp, and I'm excited about that. That's the plant that I made legal to grow in Tennessee, and now they've made it federally legal. I think that it opens up the discussion to use of the cannabis plant in general.
Yeah.
And I think people will see that there's a great benefit no matter how you look at it.
I think more people are going to be exposed to it, not knowing.
There's a greater positive to the use of the plant than there is to a greater positive being the prohibition of the plant. There's greater negatives with the prohibition of the plant than there are positives to the prohibition of the plant. And so, obviously, when you turn that conversely, there are greater positives for the use of it than there are negatives. So I'm always going to push forward as long as I'm here.
Well, I really appreciate it. I know you're strapped for time, so I think that was great. We'll cut it off here. And just,
God bless you, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, sir.